Hi, everyone. It's great to see everyone. Thanks for joining me on this Monday. We are going to talk about just a whole lot of different things today in this course. And if you're watching this live, great. There's a chat room here. Feel free to post your comments. And if you post anything that is racist, just religiously inappropriate or whatever, you're going to be banned right away. So make sure you don't do that. And hopefully we're all here to learn and to share experiences. And I hope this is going to be beneficial for everyone. This is going to be fun too, I hope. And we're going to get started. We're just going to test a few things before we get started with this. Trying the guitar. Guitar seems to be good. Let's try the different views. For this course, I should mention that I'm going to use some backing tracks that are part of the, I forgot the name, Modal Explorer pack. I'll write it down. I'll actually write a link. But you don't need the pack. If you don't have it, that's fine. You can still hopefully get some tips out of this course, but just for the purpose of having something to play over, I'm going to use the backing tracks that are found in this pack right here. And today, if you're watching live, because this is recorded, so you will be able to rewatch this later. But if you're live with me today, it's Labor Day here in the USA, which means that there's a sale on the website. Everything is 25% off. So if you're watching this not live, still check out the website. The sale might still be going on. But again, you don't need the pack to learn anything. Okay, today I'm playing through my XFX2. I always do that. It's my favorite piece of gear, and it made my life so much easier as far as tone goes. And I will show you what it looks like if you're curious. And let's switch cams. And by the way, I'll show you the tools we're going to use today. We're going to use a software called Neck Diagrams, and that'll allow me to show you basically some of the scales we're going to use. And let me switch to this view right here, this cam, and this is the piece of equipment I'm using today, the XFX2. I always use that basically in 99% of my videos. That's what I'm going through, and that's what you'll be hearing today. And we are basically going to be improvising through over different backing tracks from the Modal Explorer pack. We're going to work in the church modes, and the church modes are a collection of scales, modes, same thing, that are going to be part of the same collection of scales, church modes. And there's 7 of them. Each of these 7 modes have 7 notes also, which is kind of convenient, and they all have Greek names. But basically, if you can get something out of this course, if you're kind of new to modes, is that modes are not complicated. And the way I want you to see modes is the way that I saw them when I was studying these modes, and I got it really confused. And what really helped me out is to bring back everything to the language. And I always talk about this in my videos. I feel that I'm repeating myself over and over, but it's so useful. And basically, when you're improvising on your instrument, whether you play guitar or piano or vocals, whatever it is, remembering that music is a conversation, and that the instrument you're playing is the tool, is your voice, and you are joining a conversation. That conversation can be between different musicians in a jam situation or over a backing track. You're always joining the conversation. And if you remember that, that means that a conversation has a topic. If I'm joining a conversation about trees, then the topic is trees. If I'm joining a conversation about political thoughts, well, I leave. But if I were to join that, then that would be the topic. So there's always a topic in a conversation. And that topic is going to be given to you if you listen. If you listen, you're going to get the topic. You're going to get the feel. You're also going to get certain vocabulary that is used with the topic. So if we're talking about, trees, I'm going to use some vocabulary such as the trunks of the trees, the leaves, the weather maybe. All those set words of vocabulary are going to be useful depending on the conversation that I'm using. And I've got to adapt to the conversation I'm jumping into. That's what modes are. Modes are your vocabulary. Modes are alphabets that you're going to use. And you're going to pick you've got to pick the corresponding mode or scale to join the conversation. And that is going to happen gradually through the ears by listening to the conversation you're joining. If you're joining a blues jam, there's going to be certain words that come back. Certain words such as this word is probably going to show up at some point. Right? Maybe this word will show up. Just by playing this word or this lick or this idea, you kind of have a feel for the conversation. If I play something like this now, sorry. It's a different topic. It's a different type of conversation. So your ears are going to guide you through all that. Okay? All right, so we're going to get started. There's 7 different topics, 7 different types of conversations. And that doesn't mean that there's only one conversation going on for the Ionian. There's multiple ones. What I mean by that is that there are, we're going to play through different backing tracks that all have in common the topic, the Ionian mode, for example. Same with the Dorian and so forth. Okay, so let's get started right away with the first mode we're gonna talk about, and these are not necessarily in order, but we'll just, and that's a good thing. You don't want to see the modes as Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, and so forth all the time, because if you do that, then some of the modes that are later on the list are not going to be as used, and that's a shame because there's a lot of things you can say. A lot of conversations you can join with these modes. So we're going to start with the Ionian, also known as the major scale. And what we're going to do here is switch to the fretboard view, which is right here on your screen. And this is your fretboard. And on that, we're going to have some intervals. Intervals are different notes. And in order to have intervals, we need to have at least 2 notes, because an interval is the distance between 2 notes. So if I play a note here on the low E string, for example, here, let me magically go down. If I play a low E string, that's a note by itself. If I play another note, the distance between these 2 notes is an interval. There's wide intervals like that, or shorter intervals. And it's these intervals, the distance between 2 notes, that kind of create the mood or the atmosphere or the color. We talk about colors sometimes. Okay, so now I'm too low. All right, there we go. So we're going to go through a series of different backing tracks, and the first one, we're going to pick an Ionian backing track. We're joining an Ionian conversation. We're going to be in G Ionian. So what does that mean? That means that G is the reference note. That's the root from which we're going to measure all the other notes. And it's that measurement, distance between that G and the other notes, that is going to create the atmosphere. So if I just play a G by itself, there's not much emotion there. Now if I stack some notes, and these notes are stacked according to the formula of the Ionian mode, there's a color that starts to be heard. A mood that is different from another mode. But that's the conversation we're going to join. So we are in G. So let's go back to our big fretboard here, right here. And the first thing we need to do is to write a G note. So I'm going to put a dot on the G. There's a lot of different Gs on the fretboard. I can have one here, one here, one here, one here. A lot of different Gs, but we're going to use this one. And that's a root. That's the reference point. So I'm going to tell this, which is neck diagram, by the way, I love this software, that this is a root. So any other note I add to that fretboard is going to be given an interval name, a number name. The further I go, the wider the interval. Okay? And there's a formula that we're going to write of 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that represents the Ionian mode, the major scale. The root is the reference point. So if I stack on top of that root, that red note, a second, that creates the interval. And then the third, the fourth, and so forth. 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, the notes have their meanings or their color or their emotional value because they are played in reference to that root. If they weren't, if it was just a note, doesn't mean anything. It's got to be measured according to something else, which is that root. Now, when I play, I'm not going to play, that root all the time. That's going to be taking care of the backing track, which is the conversation we're using. And we are in G Ionian, and so I wrote a backing track that is respecting that formula that we just saw here on the... And I picked some notes from that formula, and that's why that backing track is G Ionian. So I'm gonna actually add some more dots here. I'm gonna basically continue the root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got another root here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I can just continue. Fill my fretboard all over. The fretboard basically. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to concentrate in this area of the fretboard right here, which is conveniently placed within a slice of the fretboard that is kind of easy to reach. And what we'll start doing is just playing over that backing track, which is in G Ionian. And we're going to hear that sounds. We're going to join that conversation. Here's the conversation we're joining. Okay, and if I play these 7 notes in that slice of the fretboard, they're all going to work with that backing track. Okay? You hear how all these notes fit really well what we're playing over. Okay? So far so good. How's the sound? I know it's not perfect. This is a streamed event, but hopefully this kind of makes sense, and this is kind of easy to follow. So I've just played these notes over that conversation. We're joining that conversation. Now, if I did that in the real world, it would be what I just played. It would basically be me joining a conversation about, politics, and just saying something like politics, president, vote, like naming all these notes, all these words, but with no real story. Just basically joining the conversation, and it's like being A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. It fits the language we're using, but it doesn't make sense. There's no story behind. The story behind is going to be attached to the vocabulary you're using or the alphabet you're using. And in order to attach it properly, we need to go back to the regular conversation, what I'm doing right now with you, when I'm talking to you. That's what phrasing is. That's called phrasing. So phrasing is basically taking an alphabet or words and organizing them so that they kind of speak to the listener instead of just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, like that. All right. So I was playing over a backing track in G major, G Ionian, and I was playing those 7 notes that are repeated over and over. Now we're going to talk about phrasing. And that's the part where it's very unorganized, but I'm just going to basically improvise through this backing track. I'm not going to limit myself to this area of the fretboard. We're going to do that together. I'm going to fill all the frets, And if I find something cool, I'm gonna pause and we'll talk about it, and I'll try to coach you or maybe inspire you or just give you an insight of what's going on in my mind as we're improvising. But the first step is to switch to this big diagram here, and we're gonna fill out all the notes. So anytime we have a root, I will add a dot. And we're in G, so all those red dots represent Gs. Then I'll do the same with the second. Anytime I have a second, I will add that major second, which is part of the formula of the major scale. And I'll do the same thing for all the other notes. So basically, it's just going to be a succession of roots, major seconds, perfect fourths, perfect fifths, major sixth, major seventh, and we're going to do that on the full fretboard. Oops, sorry. There you go. So if you are new to this and you're very confused about all this, don't be. Just what the confusing part is, maybe you don't know all these intervals, all these scale positions. But that's where I put my sales cap on, which I don't have. Just pretend. And I tell you about what's going on my website, guitarplayback.com. Bam. Today's Labor Day. Everything's 25% off. Great. And if you want to go further with all this, get the Applied Theory for Guitar Players. And here's a quick insight on what's going to happen with that. It's a innate lesson course on modes, giving you all the formulas, all that. It's under $50, but tons of information. But here's the thing. I am in the process of, I reshot all the videos in HD for that course. And I'm editing all of them much longer than they are now, and more bonus content and all that. The price is going to go up. For those who already bought this, you're going to get the update automatically. Anyways, and today it's 25% off. Okay, let's move back to here. I know that's not where you came from, but I've got to do it a little bit because I got to feed my family. But all right, back to this. So we are in G Ionian. All the notes on the fretboard are all going to fit that backing track. No matter where I am on the fretboard, they all work. Notice that I'm not just playing the alphabet here. I am actually phrasing, developing some ideas. And that's the goal here. We're going to learn how to try to phrase according to the conversation. So the very first thing that you do when you're joining a conversation, whether it's a jam or a band practice or playing over a backing track, is not to jump in right away the conversation. Because when I meet someone in the street, I don't automatically like, hi, my name is David. I play guitar. I love guitar. I like modes a lot. I also play board games on the side, and also I'm registered to vote at. I don't do that. I just say very ease into the conversation. Hi, my name's David. I just introduce myself, and I just go from there, right? Same with music. It's a conversation. It's not a monologue. The backing track, even though it's kind of static, it's already recording, try to approach the backing track as a living thing, as something you are reacting to and that is reacting to you also. Even though it's not true, but if you have that mindset, it's really going to help. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to ease into the conversation. So if I were to meet you in the street, I would probably be a little shyer than I am here, actually. I'm pretty reserved, really. And I'll start gently easing into the conversation before going a little further. And that's what we'll do with the backing track. So let's hear this track again. So let's switch to this view. Just listening first, so that I know the type of conversation. I'll get the indication of a tempo, the feel, which sounds like Ionian, So that chart that you see on the top left, that's going on in my brain automatically. And the course will teach you how to do that. And then I just start to pick a few notes, like, hi, my name's David. Just a few simple ideas. Just kind of testing the water. And then don't hesitate to repeat things. Repeating notes. All this is kind of testing the water. Not technically difficult, but just kind of trying to ease into the conversation. Notice that I'm leaving some space in there. It's very important. My ideas are probably 5-6 notes. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. It's really a conversation. So notice that I'm not playing like this. Because that doesn't give you a time to understand what I'm telling you musically. That's just the alphabet. Just a flow of notes, which have their use, but here we're really trying to develop a conversation. Okay, so very, very important to do that. All right. So yeah, the delay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. There was a delay that is long because I'm streaming in 1080p. You might not see the 1080p now because of your connection, but it's being recorded at the same time. And eventually, once you rewatch this tomorrow or something, it will be in 1080p. Okay. So that's the approach, okay? Always try to approach this as a conversation, if you like that. Now, if that's not what you like, if you're more of a musician who loves like long or extended, lines like that, which are great too, then don't take my advice. That's just my personal approach, but that doesn't mean that it's the only one. I think music's something that is very personal to each of us, and do what you like, what sounds right to you in your mind. Okay, so how do you get out of the boxes? Let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, Crazy BB said that you don't. You're right, you don't. You're always within a box. But the key to doing that is to slow down. Because if you slow down, that's going to give you an opportunity to get your ears back into the involvement. A lot of players, all of us, I'll say, at some point or another, get stuck in the mindset that the music or the licks or the solos are generated by our knowledge of the fretboard. It's a really easy thing to get trapped into. And that limits our musical ability to speak musically, because if you're just limited to, you know, the scales that you are, or the positions that you have, that's going to limit yourself to whatever you worked on. Whereas if you slow things down, you have the ability to mentally sing ideas, listen and sing ideas at the same time before even playing. For example, and usually it's going to be cheesy. And then try to mentally try to find that on the fretboard. Like that. Right? And that idea is not clearly not directed by some of the drills that I've worked before. It came from inside. At first, it might mean that you're listening to the track. Sing something a few times. Pause the backing track and fish around. But the more you do that, the more automatically it's going to be. So that's how you get unstuck of the boxes. And eventually it kind of becomes second nature, where you're making your ideas internally and transcribing them automatically on the guitar. So all of this is generated from inside. I know exactly what's going to come out. And if you think about it, if this seems like way too above, it's not. It's just like when you're speaking. When I'm talking to you, my ideas come inside and they're automatically flowing out. The instrument is the same exact thing. It's just a matter of really getting comfortable with the sound that comes out, anticipating that sound, trying it. And these finger movements, muscle movements, hand movements, and all that is just like when you're talking. When I'm talking to you, I've got the idea inside, but there's a lot of muscles involved. In my tongue, the way it's shaped, my throat, all of that is taking place real time. And spending time on your instrument is basically doing that, what you would do if you were to learn a new language, for example, or whatever. And so that's the idea. Using this as a tool, an extension of yourself to deliver the musical message. At first, it's going to be very simple musical messages, and most of the times they are. If you listen to the great speakers, I like watching TED Talks sometimes. Those TED Talks are very organized speeches and really simple. They can have very complex ideas, complex themes, but they're simplified. And the greatest teachers, I think, are those who can really simplify things. Same with improvisation. If you can simplify your musical thoughts, it's going to make a better statement. And that's what we're after here. Okay? So I'm going to go back to the chat here and read a little bit. I know I missed some stuff, but so just really quick, I did see this comment about Testicles, who says that he stutters and says the wrong word when you improvise. That's okay. So it depends what you mean by wrong word. I'll assume that the wrong word is the word that you didn't hear internally and it comes out different. So that could mean maybe notes that are outside of the scale or whatever. But so by doing that work that I just described, that's going to help you be more in touch, more true to the musical idea that's inside, and using the guitar as a tool, an extension, as a pencil to write those words. Also, and I just wanted to remind people of the stuttering thing. The stuttering thing is not a bad thing when you're playing if you add it, because stutters can really amplify a word. If I say a word a few times, you're going to really get it. So stuttering, 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 stuttering. Now you remember that word, stuttering. And in music, I was told this once, I can't remember by who, but I love the idea. I think it was in a magazine, and I try to apply it, and it seems to work. And this is not, okay, this is not a bad thing for the listener, but when you improvise, just consider that you're talking to babies who don't have much vocabulary. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I just mean in the way that the listener doesn't know you personally. He might know all this vocabulary, all the classic, all those classic licks, or even some of those technical licks and things like that. They might know that vocabulary, but they don't know the real you. They don't know the melodic side, that the idea that I have to deliver, which is this. So in order for me to really explain to you my idea, I'm going to consider that you are ground zero. You don't know anything about me. So I'm going to really take my time. I'm going to stutter some words. Repeat an idea in multiple ways so that you really get it. Okay? I'm really extracting all the musical juice I can get of this, of these few notes. All those things. I'm going to repeat those multiple times so that you can really get it. And if you do that musically, so that's kind of a form of stuttering or developing really basic stuff, you're going to remember what I have to tell you musically. I'm sure you still remember kind of that feel. And that's part of development. Another thing, and we'll go back to the backing track here. Another thing is when you go back to the TED Talks, I gave you the example earlier, where you explain an idea and you really develop. What you can do to develop is take this concept. For example, let's talk about, let's pick a theme. I don't know. We'll talk about fishing. I don't know anything about fishing, but I'll pretend I do. Which is good, because that brings us to another point, confidence. Even though I don't know much about fishing, I'm going to try to pretend that I do, okay? And so confidence, keep that in mind, and development. So I'm going to tell you all about fishing, all there is to know about fishing. When you fish, you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared because the fish out there are not going to wait for you. They're not going to wait for you because they just live in the pond and they're super happy. Why are they happy? They're happy. So what did I do here? I took the last idea of my sentence and started a new sentence with that last idea. The last thing I did was, the fish are really happy. Why are they happy? So I took that last idea. Musically, you want to do the same thing. So I can maybe tell you an idea here. So here's an idea. The fish are really happy. Why are they happy? See, I kind of took that first musical idea and I took the last element, which is this note, and then I kind of repeated that, but in a different way, like a question. So the fish are very happy. Why are they happy? I took the last note. So using that last note to start a new one and add a little bit of info is a good thing. You're always developing. So we're going to try to apply these things, okay? I'm going to try to apply these things in a new backing track. So we're still in the same type of conversation, which was Ionian. Still in an Ionian conversation, but a different Ionian backing track, so a different key. And for this, we're going to use, let's see, where is my player? It's right here. Let's do something in A Ionian. So that means that A is going to be the root this time. So if we go back to our diagram here, I'm going to, oops, sorry. This is, for those of you who just joined us, this is neck diagrams. This deletes all the notes here. And I'm going to generate an A Ionian scale. So A is our root. All the notes are going to be measured according to that A. And we are going to use an Ionian scale. And this is the Ionian scale. And I'm going to improvise, trying to use that development idea. Really short ideas, extracting all the musical juice I can from a simple idea, stuttering, answering my own questions, and we'll see what happens. So let's switch to this view right here. And I'm going to try to anticipate the sound of the notes I'm playing and speak the idea internally, and it's going to automatically come out of my instrument. That's the goal. So let's give that a try. And, sorry, this backing track right here. I'm listening first to the conversation. That gives me information on the tempo and the feel. And then a very simple idea. I'm introducing myself musically. Just 2 notes, right? I'm going to repeat them. Adding a few informations. Now that the listener knows me, I'm going to add some new ideas. Extracting the juice. My ideas are getting more and more elaborate. This idea was the very first one I used, so we're coming back to some ideas. It's a good thing. Now, actively participating to the music idea, where you're making the idea in your mind and then transcribing it automatically on the instrument, is very demanding mentally. It's an effort to really do that. It demands a lot of mental resources. So to give yourself a break, that's where you're going to rely on all those licks that you have learned, automatic playing. For example, all those mechanical things are going to fill in the blanks. So that's something that we're going to try in the next backing track. Let's switch keys. And as I'm preparing this key, I will, right after this, I'm going to go back to the chat and take some of the questions that we might have. And I'm sorry about the lag. I know there's a delay, but so we're going to switch conversations, completely different topic. We're not going to talk about fish anymore. We're going to talk about something else. We're going to be in the key of G Dorian just for fun. That's the conversation. This is a conversation that seems to come up a lot in funk jams, blues, kind of modern rock type of music. And that's our scale. That's the canvas we're going to use. And we're going to go from there. So let me go back to the chat. I'm gonna just really quick check this out, see if I missed anything interesting, and also make sure that there's no abuse in the chat. Let's see. Going back really quick. I wish this was like no lag at all, but unfortunately there is. This is random, but Guillermo asks, where are you from? I don't know if that's directed to me, but I live in Colorado in the USA, but I'm French. Franco-American, I guess. I'm both. Gameth asks if my out-of-the-box transition relies on knowing that G Ionian match A Dorian. Not actively. I don't really think in terms of that. That's how I learned it first. But what happens, it all comes down to listening to the conversation. So that gives you the vocabulary used, the alphabet used, making words in your mind, and associating all these words like music. So when I say words, it's like da 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 da. That's a musical word. Ba da ba ba. And that in my mind automatically it means da da ba bam, da da ba bam. It's associated to finger movements, and that's the main idea. So I don't think in terms of boxes or anything like that. I think in terms of da 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 ba ba da ba ba da ba ba da ba. It automatically translates to muscle movements. So I could play a lick by just no guitar at hand, da 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 ba ba da bum, and I know exactly which fingers are triggered because you do the work of na 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 da 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 da, of finding it on the guitar. So that's, I hope that answered your question. Okay, let me continue. Matas asks, why do we need major scales when actually there is always minor scales that is the same? So it's not the same at all. It's extremely different. But I know exactly where you're coming from. You're coming from a pattern point of view. But if you just think in terms of patterns, positions, all your improvs are going to sound kind of limited. You're going to be able to tell at some point. Whereas if you think of scales not as related to each other, but as unique and individual different musical alphabets, that's where you can really express yourself. It seems like it's more work to do it that way, which it is up front, but the payoff is huge. So, and it's not that much work. I hope that answered your question too. But it's a great question. I completely understand what you're saying. Let me see. Sorry. There's a lot of people watching. Thanks for being here. Almost about 100 people. Rana has a question here. If I have a chord progression which is E major 7, C minor sharp, I'm guessing you're saying C sharp minor. I have sharp minor 7 and B7. So that's the chord progression. Should I use modes starting from the root itself of each chord in the progression, or everything goes around E major 7? You don't have to start all of your different, when you're playing over each of these chords, to start with a different mode. Don't do that because it's going to sound very mechanical. If you do that, it's going to sound, you know, E major 7, C sharp minor, F sharp, and B. Don't do that. Because it's the root itself. If you just play the root, you're basically doubling up on what the bass is playing. No need to do that. Just think in terms of a main color, which is E major, E Ionian, and that's your alphabet. Now, of course, if we took the C sharp minor, and we froze that chord for an extended period of time, for 5 minutes, then the ear is going to be used to hearing that C sharp minor in the back, and now the notes are not attracted to that E anymore, but to that C sharp, and the color is going to change. But because these are, you know, kind of faster chord progression, everything is attracted to the E. So don't overthink it. Let's continue. Sorry. Okay. Let's continue. All right. Are there any, sorry, really quick. Alfred has a question. Are there handy modal patterns based off the fifth string? Yes. So modal charts and scales. Yes. And usually what I would recommend is associating every mode to a chord, a simple chord shape. And your chord shapes are all going to fit 5 different types of shapes. 2 of them are going to have their root on the low E string, 2 from the 5th string, and 1 from the 4th string. And depending on where that shape is, you're going to build your mode around it. This is a lot more, I can't really go in depth into that, but basically try to associate every scale with a chord shape. The 2 chord shapes that are based on the 5th string, one happens on the right side, one on the left. Like that, and yeah, we'll go more in depth in maybe in a future one. Okay, let's move on. And really quick, I just want to acknowledge Daniel Uri, who says that music originated from God. I agree 100%, absolutely. All right, let's continue. So we are in Dorian. That's the conversation we're joining. Okay, we're in Dorian and G Dorian, and let's try to this time blend some ideas directed from your thought, from inside to outside, and some that are directed to give us a break from automaticisms that we might have learned before. That's going to give us a break. Even though they might be more technically involved, they're going to give us a mental break. So let's give that a try, okay? So here's the backing track. We're going to first ease into the conversation. We're not going to start screaming on top of the conversation. We're listening, and then we'll introduce ourselves and gradually develop our ideas. Let's see if you can pinpoint when ideas are generated from within and when ideas are generated from some licks that I might have learned before. And we'll switch to this view too. All right, let's get started here. It's kind of hard to manage everything. The chat, the switching of the cameras and all that. So bear with me, and here it is. I'm just listening. I know my alphabet. Just by listening, you should kind of know the alphabet that is directed there. Start with a very simple idea, just introducing myself. Really, that I have something to say on this track, but first, here's who I am. Great. A lot of silences in there. I'm repeating it. A little more extensive now. So that's mentally draining. To really think about the idea before. So I'm going to rely more on automatic playing. I'm going to switch to that. Start with an idea from within and then gradually switch. Oops, wrong note at the end there, but that's okay. So that gives me a mental break. So I'm going to try to transition from both. All right, let's try this again. Introduction. I'm confident, but I'm not screaming on. I'm kind of gently easing in. That means neck pickup or closer to the neck, not attacking completely, but just gently brushing the strings, using a lot of different velocities in my notes. A little bit of stutter. Now I'm more confident. like that. And that's the main idea of this phrasing development type of thing. How about we switch a little bit? We're going to visit a different type of conversation now. And I told you we're not going to do this in order. We'll visit the Lydian world or Lydian conversation just for fun. And remember that you can get all these backing tracks on guitarplayback.com, which is my website where I sell different courses and backing track packs. All the tracks that we're using here, including this one, are part of the Modal Explorer pack. Everything's 25% off today only. So we're going to visit the Lydian world. Let's switch to this view right here. And we are, let's do this in B Lydian for fun. So that means that all these notes are not relevant anymore. I'm going to select all these notes, delete them. All the notes are going to be attracted to B, which is going to be our root. So B is the root right here. And I'm going to stack the notes that make the formula of B Lydian. That formula is different from any other modes. That's what makes it so unique. 7 notes: root, second, third, augmented fourth, fifth, major sixth, and major seventh. All these notes are attracted to that root, which is the red note, and I built a backing track that is specifically using those notes, and we're going to give that a try. We're going to try that right now, and we'll try this again. I'm going to fill in the blanks here because that fretboard, there's a lot of roots, the same notes that we can play all over the fretboard. So I'm going to just complete my fretboard, and I've got a handy little shortcut here with neck diagrams, which is the software I'm using for my teaching. Use the scale generator, and I'm going to generate a Lydian mode in B, and here it is. So all these notes are part of the B Lydian formula. So let's pick our backing track, and over that we're going to improvise and see if anything cool happens, and maybe there's something worth exploring here. So we are in B Lydian. Here's the backing track. Again, pay attention to what's happening. I'm not playing right away. I'm listening to what's happening. Easily, gently easing into the conversation by introducing myself, simple ideas, taking the end of my idea, the last note maybe, or the last few notes, repeating it in a different way to gradually expand. And remember, I'm talking to babies. You are too when you're improvising. Babies, not in a bad way, but musically they don't know anything about you. So you've got to gently ease them into your world. Once you've got their attention, you can throw at them anything you want, like more complex ideas. But first you've got to, simple ideas that you can repeat later on too, so that they don't get lost. So let's try that. I'll start simple. I'll try to add some more complex ideas, and then I'll go back to the introduction. You'll hear it, and you'll recognize it, and hopefully that'll make you think that my solo is a lot more thoughtful than it really is. I'm just using these simple tips. All right, let's give it a try. We're in B Lydian. Start with a simple idea. Okay, gradually adding. Now you know who I am. I can add some more complex ideas. So let's say that I played some more complex ideas for a while. Going back. to the intro. So having like an anchor is kind of important. And what I mean by anchor is basically kind of a landing point that you can rest on. What I like to tell my students is that improvising over a backing track is kind of like crossing a river. You got one side, which is the very beginning, and then the end. And your goal is to cross that river. That can be tough, and that can be confusing, and there can be some, streams of waters that are going in different currents, and that's difficult. But if you have rocks within that river to cross, it makes it easier. Instead of having to swim from point A to point B, in between you've got a lot of other little rocks. And those rocks are basically your little themes. Your introduction can be a rock, like, "Hi, my name's David." That kind of thing. That's basically what you want. You want to have different stepping stones in between so that as you're developing some more complex ideas, even going outside, or different keys, you always have that rock to look forward to instead of having to look all over across the river. So seeing it like that can really help. Okay, let's explore another one, a different conversation, and we'll do a minor mode. I saw some comments here. We'll do a Phrygian. We'll do something in D Phrygian, for example. So a new scale, a new type of conversation. So let's switch to this view. I will delete all the notes, select all the notes, delete them, and we will build a D Phrygian mode. We're joining a D Phrygian conversation, which means that we need to respect the alphabet and the words, the vocabulary, which is given right here, and you can see that. And switch to this view. And sorry about the reflection here. I know it can be a little annoying. There we go. That's a little better. And we're going to pick the conversation. I'm going to look for a B Phrygian backing track. All these tracks are included in the Modal Explorer pack. And you can get a lot of cool courses and items with good production quality on guitarplayback.com. But let's give that a try. D Phrygian. Where's my D Phrygian track? Here it is. So we're listening. I'm going to introduce myself first. It's the polite thing to do. That's my intro. I'm gently exploring the fretboard. Anticipating the sound of the notes so that no notes come as a surprise. If I hit this, that's a surprise. I don't want that kind of surprise. That's kind of tiring because I'm anticipating the sound of the notes. But I'm going to rely on, I'm going to take a break, a mental break to rely on my automatic playing. See if you can recognize when. that was automatic playing, and then I can go back to my actively mental construction of these licks and musical ideas. It's all about the conversation. Any questions so far? We're getting close to the end of this stream. It's been about an hour, but I hope that this has kind of helped you organize your musical thoughts. That's really the main idea here. Before we close, I'm going to still go through the other church modes that we've talked about, or that I briefly mentioned, because I just want to give you an opportunity to hear how that kind of thing sounds. So I'll do that right now. Here's a quick ad insertion. It's time for that. I'll meet you right after. Okay, so we should be back. If you didn't see an ad, congratulations, you hacked the system. That's great. And let's just get started right away with this. So we dealt with 4 of the modes, I think. Ionian, Dorian, Lydian, and Phrygian. Yep. There are 3 other modes in no order of importance. And some modes you might like. You might like the sound of them. Some you might not. Just go for the ones that you really do like. That's the important thing. So let's explore the Mixolydian. I love the Mixolydian conversation. Joining those is great. And if you had to know, a few select words or collection of words, Mixolydian would be one of them. The other one would be Dorian, maybe. It depends on the style of music you listen to. But Mixolydian is great. Usually when you join a jam, at some point or another, you're going to have a Mixolydian conversation. So we'll do that. I'm going to go back to my fretboard, and I'm going to start with a fresh blank fretboard, and let's do this in B. So I'm going to generate a B Mixolydian mode, and that's going to give us the possible letters or the possible alphabet to use on a B Mixolydian mode. Here it is. Now, of course, if you're working on learning all these, you can split your fretboard in shorter areas of the fretboard, positions, slices of the fretboard. But we're not going to do that. We're going to see this as a whole. I don't have to start with the root. I can start with any of these notes because these notes are all going to be attracted to the backing track, which we're going to hear in a second. So let's switch back here to this view. All the possible notes that I'm going to play are going to be within that scale. And then I want to show you a few ways to use outside notes and approach new ones. So if I just play the notes from that alphabet, it's going to sound like this. That'll work. From that alphabet, I can make words. Starts to become more interesting. I can develop more complex. Wow, what is that? I'll tell you. So that was going outside. I played outside a little bit. Why did it seem to work? 2 things. I didn't start by going outside right away, because if I did, that breaks the rule of introducing myself. Doesn't work. Rule number 2, I was using the the same, I was attaching to something that you are used to, which was the rhythm. Like that. And I landed on a note of the scale. Well, actually, I didn't, but I should. I just stopped right away. So when you're playing outside, keep a consistent rhythm pattern, and you don't have to overthink it. Let me show you. You don't have to overthink this. In this case, I just used the shape, and I picked any shape. In this case, I was on the second, third, and fourth string. I was using this kind of shape. Index, middle, ring, which is 12, 13, 14, but I can start anywhere I want. Anywhere. And then I descend in that in a chromatic way, 1 fret at a time. Doesn't make any sense for the notes, but there's this consistency. And I can start from any string too, the first string too. Do it the other way. Or ascending. As long as it's consistent rhythmically and it's a chromatic idea, it's going to work, especially on the Mixolydian. If you don't start phrasing right away with that and you land on a proper note. Let's give that a try. So I'm going to develop. I'm going to start with a simple idea, introducing myself. And here's my introduction. I'm going to repeat that. Develop a little bit. Develop a little more. You heard it there, right? The outside. Kind of got confused at the end there, but you kind of get the idea. Okay, let's really quick. We're gonna finish this stream with the other. Is it the other two modes? Yeah, the other two. Aeolian is another conversation we're gonna join just for fun. Here's something in B Aeolian so that you can hear it, and then I'll hang out a little more with questions and stuff if there are any. So B Aeolian. This is how it sounds like. Introducing myself. Very gradually. And then I can add some more complex idea as I develop. And it's a different color. You can hear that the conversation is a little bit different than it was before. And then finally, we'll try the last one, which is the Locrian conversation. It's different, but we'll hear it anyways, and it will be an A Locrian just for fun. Okay, I think I'm getting a few audio issues here, so I'm not gonna continue with these tracks. But the stream that you're hearing now is not necessarily the best quality backing tracks, but these backing tracks have been recorded in HD, and the pack also comes with 7 improvisations tabbed, and hopefully you'll benefit from that too. Again, if you're watching this live, everything is 25% off on the website. I will take a few questions if the chat can load up, because the chat doesn't seem to want to load. Maybe there's too many people watching this. I don't know. That might be why. Oh, there we go. Okay. I got the chat loaded up. Let me check. I know that I missed tons of stuff here. Okay. Got a question here. Sorry, I missed it earlier. But tips for generating phrases and rhythm patterns to play. When you're listening to the backing track and you can't hear anything at all. Maybe it has to do with the music that you listen to on the side. And maybe it means that you're not listening to enough music, or maybe it means that you need to listen to different types of music. If you kind of like immerse yourself into listening to different types of music, you're probably going to start to have new ideas, recognize new words that are not into your normal vocabulary, that are going to kind of tickle your ear. I think that's probably the direction I would go in. Pick up an album and actually buy an album. I know that, let's face it, most of us have downloaded stuff before without buying something. I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's bad. But when you actually buy something, seek out something, you kind of do the effort. You make the effort to really immerse yourself into what the music has to tell. And that really helps, because you listen to it over and over. You're kind of invested financially. You bought the album, and you really have to make the effort if you want your money's worth. And it's always worth it. So yeah, listen to more music maybe, or different types of music. And then force yourself to imagine too. I hope that helps. I don't know. Hope it does. Sherman asks, what modes can you use over altered chords? Altered chords, there's a lot of modes that you can use, but usually, because altered chords are generally used as a break within the standard key, like something that is, that adds tension, for example, something like this. Have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 5, and we're going to alter that 5. So instead of being, we have something like that, kind of altered. Because it's altered, it breaks the general key. Instead of thinking in terms of modes, I would think in terms of breakage, using something broken already. which usually are symmetrical patterns. And some happen to fall into a simple way to organize, or not a simple way, but our formula. So the whole tone scale would be a good choice, which is a scale you started from a root, so from the root from the altered chord, for example. In this case, the D, and you just stack whole tones. And you keep going like that. That's a good way to do it. Or the diminished scale. There are two types of diminished scales. One starts with the whole step, the other one with a half step, and it just alternates whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, or half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. Or they're very close. So I would use either diminished or whole tone, usually. Okay, what else do we have? Anthraxed. Sorry, I can't read. How do you make your language more dark, more minor? Well, that's very personal. Usually people say minor scales, diminished intervals. I don't like to see it that way because I think the emotional value that you add to the scale, a lot of it has to do with the way that you approach it, the way that you phrase. But really, generally speaking, when you're playing over a backing track, you have no control over the color. The control is already given by the chord progression. So as a lead player, if a backing track uses a lot of chords, you don't really have much options to direct the solo in a particular mode. It's the composer. When you're composing these chords, if you make sure to use chords that are extracted from a quote-unquote darker mode, that's when your music's going to start in darker. And yeah, so it starts with the backing track. As a solo player, you just have to follow what is given already, but you don't really have control over the language because you're joining a conversation, and no matter how hard you try, you're not going to change the mood of that conversation if it's already established. All right. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Like making the major feel minor, you can't. You can't, no matter how hard you try. So I'm going back in time here, checking on the comments. Dave Boogie asks about musical beds like backing tracks. Yep, I'll try to develop something. There is, I'll refer you to a YouTube video I did a while back that might help on developing modal backing tracks. I'll leave it in the chat here. Hang on a second. Here it is. It's an older video, but it's right here. Gary asks how often I do these live streams. There's no set schedule. This is the second real one that I'm doing just for fun. And yeah, best way is to subscribe or follow me on Facebook. Everyone, that's about it for today. I really hope that you found this lesson beneficial and that you got something out of it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them on the chat. I'll try to come back to it at some point. But yeah, the sale is going on today. and just taking advantage of it. Also, if you want to go further, if you want something on a weekly basis, check out guitarinfusion.com. And every week there's a new video. It's an ongoing course. Right now we're in the application section where there's kind of shorter lessons, digestible lessons every Friday. And it's $20 a month, and you get access. Right now I think there's about 50 weeks worth of content. You can unlock everything. Just sign up now, and that's it. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate all the comments, and you guys are great. I will see you next time. I don't know when that is, but soon, I hope. And have a wonderful rest of your Labor Day if you're off today. I'll see you very soon. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time. Salut!